Before we dive into this incredible story, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see how far our stories reach. And if you love gripping stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Tomorrow, at the at the same time, we'll bring you another thrilling tale that you won't want to miss. Trust us, this next one will keep you on the edge of your seat. So, hit that like button, share your thoughts, and let's get started. She slipped a secret note to a royal guard. What he did next left everyone stunned. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over Buckingham Palace, its towering gates standing as a symbol of power and tradition. Logan Carter, a 30-year-old U.S. Marine veteran, stood motionless at his post, dressed in the crisp red tunic and black bearskin hat of the Royal Guard. Tourists gathered in droves, their cameras flashing, their voices a mix of excitement and admiration. For them, this was a grand spectacle, the changing of the guard, a tradition preserved for centuries. For Logan, it was just another day on duty. The routine was predictable, the discipline ingrained in him through years of military training. He was used to the crowds, the endless stream of curious onlookers trying to get a reaction out of the guards, the occasional taunts, the laughter. Nothing could break his focus. Until he saw her. She was petite, mid-20s, with dark hair that fell in messy waves around her face. But it wasn't her appearance that caught his attention. It was the way she moved. Fast, nervous, uneasy. She wasn't like the other tourists who pointed and smiled. Her eyes darted left and right, scanning the crowd as if she were being followed. Logan's grip on his ceremonial rifle remained firm, but his instincts were now on high alert. His training told him to stay still, to remain composed, but something about her set off a silent alarm in his mind. The girl weaved through the crowd, moving with purpose but also hesitation. Her hands clutched something small, a folded piece of paper, her fingers trembling as she tightened her grip. Logan had seen fear before, on the battlefield, in the faces of civilians caught in the chaos of war. He recognized that same look in her wide, desperate eyes. She was getting closer. Logan didn't move, but he could feel his pulse steady and strong. His gaze remained locked forward, as protocol demanded, but he tracked her with his peripheral vision. Then, in one swift motion, she stepped up to him, just for a second, barely a breath's time. Her trembling hand reached out, slipping a folded note into his gloved palm. And then, she was gone. Disappearing back into the sea of tourists, she moved quickly, her head down, her pace increasing as she vanished beyond the palace gates. Logan's heartbeat quickened. This was a breach of protocol. No one was supposed to make direct contact with the guards. But he didn't need orders to tell him that something was very, very wrong. An hour had passed since the girl slipped the mysterious note into Logan Carter's gloved hand. He had remained at his post, motionless, as protocol demanded, but his mind had been racing ever since. Now, back inside the guards' quarters, away from the public eye, he finally had a chance to see what had been so urgent. With steady hands, he unfolded the small, crumpled piece of paper. The handwriting was rushed, uneven, as if written in pure desperation. The message made his breath catch. "Help me. I escaped, but they're still after me. They'll find me if I stay. Please, I need your help. Don't trust anyone. They're watching." No name. No explanation. Just fear etched into ink. Logan's pulse picked up speed. His military instincts kicked in, analyzing every detail. He replayed the moment in his mind. The girl's trembling hands, the way her eyes darted nervously, the urgency in her steps. This wasn't a joke. His grip tightened around the note. He had seen real fear before, in war zones where survival depended on instinct. And that girl? She had looked like someone running from death itself. A deep sense of unease settled over him. His duty was to protect the palace, the crown, to follow orders without question. He wasn't law enforcement. He wasn't a detective. But something about this wouldn't let go. His gaze drifted to the uniform pocket where he had tucked the note, as if ignoring it might make it disappear. But it didn't. The words were now burned into his mind. The girl had chosen him. Why? He clenched his jaw. Maybe she had seen the uniform and thought it meant safety. Maybe she had been looking for anyone she could trust. And now she was out there, alone, hiding, afraid. His thoughts sharpened. If she was right, if someone really was after her, then every second that passed put her in more danger. His shift was almost over. He had no authority to investigate, no orders to follow. But that didn't matter, because in his gut, he already knew he wasn't going to let this go. Logan didn't waste time. The moment his shift ended, he changed into civilian clothes and slipped out of the barracks, moving through the streets near Buckingham Palace. The crowds had thinned, the once bustling energy now replaced with the quieter hum of evening life. The girl was out there somewhere, scared, alone, and possibly being hunted. He had no idea where to start, but his instincts told him to go back to where he last saw her. His eyes scanned every corner, every face, looking for a sign of her. She wouldn't be standing out in the open, not if she truly believed someone was after her. Then something pulled his attention. A small cafe on the corner, its windows fogged from the warmth inside. It wasn't much, but it felt right. He stepped inside, the faint jingle of the doorbell barely registering over the low murmur of conversation. A few patrons sat scattered around, sipping coffee, lost in their own worlds. And then he saw her. She was huddled in the corner booth, gripping a steaming mug with shaky hands. Her dark hair fell in messy waves over her face, but he could see the tension in her posture. She wasn't relaxed. She was hiding. Logan approached carefully, sliding into the seat across from her. No sudden movements, no panic. "It's me," he said quietly. "The guard. I got your note." Her head snapped up. Wide eyes, recognition, relief, fear. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, her voice hoarse raw. Logan studied her carefully. Up close, she looked even worse than before, tired, pale, on edge. "You asked for help," he said, his voice steady. "I'm here." She swallowed hard, her hands tightening around the mug like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I don't know who to trust," she admitted, her voice barely above a breath. "They could be anywhere." Logan's gaze sharpened. "Who's after you?" He pressed. She glanced toward the window, her eyes flickering with a fear so deep it made his stomach tighten. Then the cafe door jingled again. She froze. Logan didn't turn immediately. He didn't need to. He felt the shift in energy, the sudden weight of new eyes scanning the room. "They found me," she whispered. Her voice shook with terror. Logan didn't move right away. Years of military training had taught him one thing. Panic gets you killed. Instead, he kept his voice low, steady. "Do you trust me?" The girl's breathing was shallow, rapid, her hands gripping the coffee mug like it was her last lifeline. Her gaze flickered to the men who had just entered. Two of them, both dressed in dark coats, their eyes scanning the room with slow, deliberate precision. She hesitated. Then she nodded. That was all he needed. Without another word, Logan reached across the table, grabbed her hand, and pulled her to her feet. He kept his body between her and the men, shielding her as they moved toward the back of the cafe. The moment they started moving, he felt it. The men had noticed. They weren't rushing. Not yet. But they were watching. Logan pushed open the back door, leading them into a narrow alleyway lined with dumpsters and shadows. The air was sharp, cold, filled with the distant hum of city traffic. "Keep moving," he whispered. She stumbled, but he didn't let go. Her legs were weak, exhaustion evident in every step, but there was no time for weakness now. Then, footsteps. Logan's jaw tightened. The men were following. A quick glance over his shoulder confirmed it. Two silhouettes emerging from the cafe, moving fast. Damn it! Logan led her deeper into the alley, weaving through the maze of side streets and back entrances. He had no idea where they were going. All that mattered was losing them. But the footsteps behind them weren't fading. "They're too close," she gasped, her voice breaking. Logan scanned ahead. The alley opened up onto a busier street, filled with pedestrians. A chance to blend in. "Stay close," he ordered. They stepped into the crowd, merging with the flow of people. Logan guided her toward a small convenience store, the fluorescent lights spilling onto the sidewalk. They slipped inside, crouching behind a rack of snacks. Her breathing was erratic, her hands trembling. Logan placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "You're safe, for now." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with something between gratitude and terror. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll never stop." Logan exhaled. his mind already calculating their next move. Then we don't stop either. Logan's mind raced. Hiding wouldn't last forever. They needed a plan. Fast. The girl? Emily was still shaking, her eyes flicking toward the store entrance like she expected those men to burst in at any moment. Logan's grip on her shoulder tightened slightly, reassuring but firm. "We need to get somewhere safe," he said, scanning the aisles. "Do you have anyone you trust?" Emily shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "They took my phone. I don't even know who to call anymore." Logan clenched his jaw. He knew someone. Pulling out his own phone, he dialed a number from memory. A gruff voice answered almost immediately. "Carter? Been a while." "Jake, I need a favor. No questions." There was a pause, then a sigh. "Where are you?" Logan gave a quick rundown, keeping his voice low. "Got it. I'll send an address. Lay low until then." Logan hung up just as Emily tensed, her hand clutching his sleeve. "They're here," she whispered. Logan followed her gaze. Through the store window, one of the men stood on the sidewalk, scanning the aisles. His partner was nowhere in sight. Damn it. "Stay behind me," Logan ordered. Keeping his movements calm, controlled, he grabbed a bag of chips from the shelf and walked toward the register. The man outside locked eyes with him. Logan didn't react. He placed the chips on the counter, pulled out a few pounds, and nodded at the cashier. Behind him, Emily stayed hidden between the shelves, her breath shallow. As the register beeped, the man outside reached for his phone, speaking into it before stepping away from the window. Logan knew what that meant. "They're calling backup," he muttered. Emily gripped his sleeve tighter. "What do we do?" Logan grabbed the bag of chips, pretending nothing was wrong. "We leave. Now." With practiced ease, he led her toward the back exit, pushing open the heavy metal door. A cold gust of air hit them as they stepped into another dark alleyway. Logan's phone buzzed. A message from Jake. "Warehouse. 2 blocks west. Move fast." Logan pocketed his phone and grabbed Emily's hand. "Run." And they did. Through the alleys, across the street, blending into the moving bodies of London. The night wasn't over, but Logan wasn't stopping. Not until she was safe. What would you have done if you were in Logan's shoes? Would you have risked everything to help a stranger in danger, or would you have walked away, unsure of who to trust? This story isn't just about action. It's about instinct, courage, and the choices we make when the odds are stacked against us. Logan didn't have to get involved, but something inside him wouldn't let him turn his back. And that decision changed everything. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to trust your gut, even when things didn't make sense? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because tomorrow, at the same time, we'll bring you another heart-pounding story you won't want to miss. Also, let us know where you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how far our stories reach around the world. Drop your location in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going.